A warm welcome to the Western Cape Teachers Forum, a platform where we educate, empower, and excel. Now, it's chilly and wet in the mother city this evening, so I hope that you are warm, safe, and healthy wherever you're joining us from. So please let us know in the comment section where you're from, and we will say the hellos to you rather. And so we would also like at this opportunity to wish all our Muslim friends and followers of the forum Eid Mubarak on Eid al-Adha, and may the blessings of and guidance of the Almighty be with you forever. Now, I also want to spare a thought to our school management team members and our non-teaching staff members who are returning to school tomorrow as they are preparing for the return of the rest of the staff and the learners this coming Monday, 26th of July, 2021. Now, this will indeed be a very busy term. We've got the matric mock exams taking place from the middle of September right into the first week of October. We've got the systemic testing in the Western Cape for grade 3, 6, and 9s. And then, of course, we've got the third wave of infections that we are trying to battle here. And so amongst all of that, there's the isolations, there's the quarantining, there's all kinds of challenges that awaits us as we ready ourselves for term 3. And I'm certain some of the schools have also not wrapped up term 2 yet. So it's a matter of picking up the pieces where we left and moving and soldiering on. Now, tonight we want to welcome a friend, or two friends rather, or a friend of the forum. And it's Theola Phillips, and she's a co-editor of the book called Teaching in and Beyond the Pandemic Times. And she will also be joined by Professor Jansen later onwards. And he's probably just running a little bit late, but we are awaiting his royal presence. And so, Theola, good evening, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Good evening, Lee. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm excited to be here. And how are you?
No, I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well, thank you. I mean, the presence of education royalty here tonight, we in the Western Cape, but we're also taking the conversation to the Free State and to the Gauteng province and to Simonstown, where 3 of the authors are hailing from. And so they will also spare some thoughts and insights around their contributions. And there we have Prof. Jansen. Prof, good evening, and thank you for joining us.
Greetings, Lee. Hi, Theola.
Hi, Pro.
well, looking fresh, yes. Yeah. I'm going to start with Prof. Jansen. Prof, now, I mean, we know that there was the Learning Under Lockdown that was published not too long ago, and that painted the picture of the perspectives of the learners whilst learning under lockdown. So why did you feel that there was a need to capture the stories of the teachers this time around?
Well, shortly after, as you said, Learning Under Lockdown came out, I was in touch with friends who are teachers, including Theola. And I think Theola, in fact, was the one who said to me, when are we doing the book on teachers? and immediately it was clear to me we needed something on teachers. I got a postdoc doing one on parents who are teaching at home. And then I'm scheming a book on leaders during the crisis, school leaders. But what's fascinating to me, Lee, about this book is it's the first time anywhere in the world that you actually have a picture of the inner lives of teachers, So again, when I talk to teachers, like Theola is also a teacher leader, and how scared they were about having to go back to school. And, at that stage, there was no vaccinations for teachers yet. And so all of those reasons, and also, let me just say this, let me just get this clap in while I can. I think teachers were really frustrated by the fact that the general public often saw them as having extra holidays, during that lockdown. You read this book and you say, live a land, they really, really worked hard. Not just hard physically, but hard emotionally and hard intellectually. And I'm okay. So what a lovely opportunity for us with you just to celebrate teachers and the book.
Well, thank you for showcasing our teacher heroes in the form that you have done. I mean, I'm truly enlightened by the stories that I've read thus far. And I say to Theola, we need to get you guys on and just celebrate our heroes, because we are the coal face of education, making that daily differences in the lives of our clients. And it's not very often that we have a platform where we can exhibit our skill, and I mean, a lot of teachers, especially the older folk, we don't do well with compliments, and with being appraised.
No, no, that's absolutely true. I mean, it's a thankless job in many ways. You get criticized for not doing enough of this or not caring
Yeah.
enough about that. So, but I tell you something. As somebody who started as a teacher years ago, this book uplifted me. It just strengthened me. I mean, TikTok, YouTube,
Yeah.
all kinds of innovations. Huge respect I have, even more so now, for our teachers in the trenches.
All right, now Theola, let's bring you in here very quickly before we say hello to the people that are lined up backstage. Now, out of all the teachers in the country, you were then selected to be part of this journey with Prof. Now, how did that happen? And I mean, what was the journey like for you?
Okay, so it all started on Facebook, right? So I was interviewed on another platform, and then obviously, at the time, we all remember Prof said that no, we must keep the school closed, and I sided with him, right? Because it was a novice virus, and we didn't know anything about it. And I think I mentioned his name, and then from there, Prof approached me and said, "Hi, from which school are you?" And then our conversation started, and then the learning under lockdown book happened, and from there the conversation started of the teachers. What are we going to do? Are we going to give the teachers a voice as well? Because remember, in the education sector, I feel that we are voiceless. We're not allowed to say as much as we would like to. So yeah, this book also gave a lot of educators a voice just to speak and share their experiences in the lockdown and beyond. So yeah, it was a great experience. Prof is humble, um and yes, always on point, and he knows exactly what he wants, and I enjoyed the experience. If I could do it over, I would definitely do it over again and again and again and again.
Well, I'm jealous, man. I mean, some of us have submitted stories and it wasn't even featured, but and yeah, you get to and yeah, you get to be part of this amazing project, part of history. Now, Theola, whilst you're there, I'm gonna read an extract from your story as it appears on this wonderful book, and I've got my copy here. And thank you for the copy. And it says the following, and I just need you to briefly, just expand a little bit on the following two sentences. It says, let me just get my story straight here. I was warned about young leaders committing career suicide if they appear too vocal, if they dare criticize the employer. The risk was too high. I had children to feed. Now, talk to us about that.
Yeah, okay. So again, on the time when we had the hard lockdown, right? So I felt frustrated. I don't know about the other educators, but I felt frustrated because many times DBE would say one thing, and then the provincial leaders, they would say a total different thing. So there the frustration built up. And then at the time, the only communication that we had was Facebook and Twitter. And I think I was interviewed by you as well. And
Yeah.
at that point, when I approached my fellow colleagues and I told them, listen, yeah, I'm going to be on Western Cape Teachers Forum about COVID-19 and teaching. So I was told, no, rather not. Don't speak about this. You're going to lose your job. And that is where that statement came in. And I was told that you're going to commit career suicide. And then it was said, if I apply further, they're going to throw my CV out because of what I said and things like that.
Sure.
So at that point in time, I felt it was deep, and I felt hurt, and I was very frustrated. So yeah, I
Sure.
just felt that was something I had to share. And even with this book also, I had to take the risk or lose the chance. So I still don't know what's going to happen. So yeah, I'm hoping for the best though.
Yeah. Now, Prof. Jansen, I mean, after having listened to Theola, there's a fine line between raising your concerns as an individual teacher or person, rather, and criticizing. I mean, you want to comment on that one?
Yeah, it worries me greatly, and I hope the Western Cape Education Department, and indeed all the provinces, will understand that to criticize is not to condemn. To have a view is not to be, unpatriotic. To express yourself as a professional doesn't mean you're anti-government. I mean, we are a young democracy, and I hope we grow up. In this book, there's not a single. I was very aware of the fact that not just Theola, but a number of teachers said, "Don't use my name, don't tell them which school I'm from." What nonsense is that? This is not apartheid, man, for God's sake. This is a democracy. And people should be able to express themselves without fear. And hats off to Theola, to the other teachers, the principals, everybody that jumped in. It is your right. You don't have to be scared. It is your right to say what you're feeling, what you're afraid of, and where you differ. But those old habits from the past, unfortunately, tend to hover around. Like OBE.
Yeah. No, listen, let's before we bring, at this stage, I'm going to bring on the first teacher author. Now, there are a number of themes that were addressed, and there were pressure, pedagogy, preparation, poverty, privilege, and the like. And I want to bring on Ashika Malam. At the time, she was David's, as it was displayed in the book, and her story was the first one to appear under the theme pressure. And she's a teacher at Simonstown School in the Western Cape. Ashika, good evening to you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, ma'am. Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
Yeah, now, Ashika, I want to jump right into a section of the work that you've contributed. And it said the following: 3 months of online learning, teaching, and assessing resulted in sleepless nights and constant headaches. With the new normal, it was time for me as a novice teacher, as a pioneer of a new subject in South Africa, marine sciences, to fasten my straps and hold on tight as the pandemic wave struck. Now, do you want to expand a little bit on the sentiments that you shared at the time?
Right. Let me start off by saying good evening, everyone that is tuning in. I feel super honored and grateful to be among such legends such as Prof. Jansen and Theola. Let me where do I even start? I mean, the pressure that I felt. I mean, being a novice teacher, a new subject, that alone created a huge amount of pressure around me. And when I say that it gave me countless headaches and all of those things, I mean, just imagine the anxiety that I was feeling. I mean, my second year of teaching, a brand new subject. It's not like you could go online and look for activities for the learners to do. I was creating my own. And that was quite a lot for me, pressure wise. And at that moment, when I said strap on your, to hold on and for the COVID wave that struck, I was referring to being in uncharted waters. So nowhere in the world have we ever experienced something like this. There is no book out there to tell us what to do next and how to go forward. So for me, it was like, look, wherever this is going to take me, it's either swim or sink. Whichever I do with it, I need to make do. Whether it needs to be that I need to change my own pedagogies into how I'm going to teach and how the learners are going to learn, I would then just have to move on with those changes.
Sure. Now, and for some of us who do not know what marine sciences, the subject is, just very briefly explain to us, what does it entail?
Wow. Marine sciences is a fairly new subject created by the Two Oceans Aquarium. It deals with the ocean in general. We know that the ocean is very vast. You have the waves, the chemical compositions, the animals that live in there. So that is basically all that. It's just to instill the curiosity in the learners to be able to become more conscientious of the ocean. And in doing so, we teach these content to the learners so that they can go out there and be the young pioneers to be able to save the ocean. And if we save the ocean, we then save the world.
Wow,
so
that's
the
very
gist of
interesting.
it.
Wow. Now I want to go further. You said the following as well: I needed assurance. I needed somebody to let me know that I was doing enough. I needed to regain my passion for teaching. I needed to know what my next step was. That almost felt like there was a sense of you needed guidance, you needed support. What did you mean when you mentioned those things at the time?
Okay, so what I meant there was that there were so many uncertainties, sorry, during that time. I mean, uncertainties from the president, the department, and from myself as well, from my
Yeah.
teaching and so forth. So these uncertainties then created some sort of, I needed guidance. I needed a compass to direct me on whether or not what I'm doing is correct, whether it is doing its justice, not only to the subject, the new subject, but also to the education department and my teaching and my learning. So all I
Mm,
needed was for someone to say that, look, Ashika, what you're doing is perfect. Go for it. But there was no one that could assure me on this because
wow.
yet again, it is uncharted water. So the pressure, anxiety, all of those things. I mean, but where I am now, basically, I feel that I'm kind of less pressured and the anxiety is kind of less because of the fact that, as I said before, it's either swim or float, and I chose
Yeah.
to float, keep my head above water. I went online and did courses at CTLI just to better my skill, to
Yeah.
better adapt myself and my teaching for the learners. Because at the end of the day, the learners are our customers, and we need to be able to equip ourselves to be able to teach our customers. And I mean, my children know that I am a perfectionist and I love teaching, I love my job. So I wouldn't say that my passion has gone now. My
Yeah.
passion is definitely still there. I mean, I
Okay.
was born to teach and I love teaching.
Now, I'm testament to that. Before Prof. Jansen share of a thought with you quickly, just tell us quickly how do we know each other? Because just very quickly.
So Lee Hoffmann is the acting principal at Simonstown School. Also, should I say that you are a friend, a very close friend? Um, yeah, we
Yeah,
colleagues, very close
and
colleagues.
And the only reason I want to mention that is because I'm testament to the hardworking and capable individual that we see in front of us, Prof. and Theola. This you must remember the name Ashika Malam. She's still going to make waves in education. Trust me on that one, Prof. A final thought that you want to share with Ashika before she takes leave of us.
Well, let me just tell you, I love your metaphors. She's going to make waves in marine sciences. She's going to sink or swim in marine. In the marine. Ashika, I just have one question. I mean, you absolutely inspired us with your story. And I love your passion for teaching. I just have one question for you. Please tell me that you showed your children, your learners, the movie, My Octopus Teacher, and that you took them down to where it happened, which is not far from your school.
I wish that could have been possible. But with COVID, we can't take the learners down. We have to in advance all of those things. But I definitely used to take my kids down to Seafood Beach to see the penguins kayaking. It was very interactive before, as I mentioned in my story. But now with COVID, things have completely changed. What I could
But
teach out in the open, I now need to bring into the class. But they
but did
are
you
aware
show?
that it has happened down here.
But did you show them the movie?
No, I didn't. I think that I would have probably needed tissues all around because it was quite emotional.
All right, listen, guys. Ashika, well, a blessed Eid to you today as you celebrated that, and we wish you nothing but the best. And I'll see you in the morning at 9 o'clock sharp, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you very much. That was Ashika Malam, and she's a teacher at Simonstown School in the Western Cape. Now that was dealing with the theme pressure. Now the next theme that we want to deal with is pioneers, not the sound system, but a pioneer, a baanbreker. Ne? And we're going to take the conversation now to the Gauteng province in the form of Miss Ilonka Pool, and she is or was a teacher at Greenside High School in Gauteng. Ilonka, good evening to you.
Evening, Lee, and evening to everyone and the viewers. And I'd just like to say, listening to Theola and Ashika, all my buttons were pressed. I felt like I was transported back to 2020. I could feel the pressure. I could feel the sleepless nights. Oh my word. And I mean, I think that is that's how you resonate with those stories is just, oh my word, it's phenomenal. And I love it that we've given teachers the voice. I can't wait to read the book.
Oh well, you're in for a treat, ma'am. Now listen, you said that at the time you were excited to start to share your passion with the use of ed tech in the classroom. Now, is my assumption correct that ed tech is short for educational technology?
Yes.
And
Yes.
now share with us, how did you plan, or how did you establish the link between that and the curriculum?
So I think that was always the problem, and because those two have always been kept apart, and the curriculum is quite content heavy. So teachers try and grapple through the content, tick off the boxes, and the tech that's used is really just on the lowest substitution level, where we PDF worksheets or we do a PowerPoint. And my love for technology was always wanting to take that further, but somehow I was missing the link. And the silver lining for me with the whole COVID experience, and Ashika also referred to that, was the professional development opportunities that we could embark on. And through some of those, I made that connection where the EdTech is the tool, the curriculum is your content, and the link is your pedagogy.
Yeah.
And that is how you bring the three together. And for me, that was a light bulb moment.
Sure. Now, I mean, I suppose you needed a great degree of proficiency with the use of technology to be able to. I mean, I remember there was a number of teachers who were extremely stressed at the time because they just didn't know what is Zoom, what is Teams, what is, Google Classroom. And so how did you, what was the mood like at the time? I mean, was everybody able to just, transition from the one to another?
No, not at all. And I think we saw those different comfort zones and how people reacted to change. I mean, I think that, like Theola said, that where we weren't given guidance because everyone was in this holding pattern the whole time. Let's wait for the president to say something. Let's wait for something. And my perspective was, let's keep on teaching. Let's keep on getting our learners going. We don't know what's coming. So rather try and get in as much as possible that we can. And I mean, I was fortunate that I was in a school where most of the learners did have technology and data to use. But that was important for me to do. And when and I'll take my example, as a grade 8 and 9 Afrikaans teacher, I was the only one that was EdTech proficient.
Wow.
So I started with Google Classroom, which was quite new. And at a point, I just had to pull in my 178 grade 8 Afrikaans students into one Google Classroom because all my other teachers, colleagues were still learning. And I didn't want to expose them to having to feel that discomfort. They should rather co-teach and learn. But what you quickly saw is who grasped, who was willing, who kind of said, no, I'm going to sit back and wait a little bit more. And, you just saw that transformation happening or not happening by and large. And I do still feel that many of the schools are still too siloed. I found across the grade that there wasn't a coordination across the grade with subjects. So teachers were just giving out work, thinking, you at home, and I think I mentioned in the book, you at home, you've got lots of time. You just do all this work, without coordinating and really feeding off each other interactively and saying, listen, this is what I've experienced. This child is having a problem. So I think that there was a vacuum in terms of leadership, in terms of just organizing the curriculum and how to keep teachers moving ahead. So some teachers were doing quite a lot, some teachers weren't, and it was all a mingelmoes fun of quality and of work.
Yeah. Now, I can imagine that it must have been a very exhausting process for you. I mean, to engage the learners online and then to prepare the material.
As Ashika also mentioned, I mean, Afrikaans is also one of those subjects. You can't just go to Twinkle or go and search and find Afrikaans online. So you had to really go and think about And I think that was important, is really think about the learning path for the kids. It
Yeah.
was not about just giving worksheets. And so we tried really to do different things with them. I, for example, created a site called the Afrikaans Jedi, where they went and had to go and conquer different worlds, the Meervoud and the Selfstandige Naamwoord, and they got little badges, and there was a leaderboard, and you know, you really try to bring gamification and all your different types of pedagogies in to make it interesting, because sitting in front of a laptop and a screen, that is not what the teaching is.
Yeah.
We needed to make that balance between the synchronous and the asynchronous learning happen.
Prof. Jansen, do you want to share anything with Ms. Poole? Maybe Prof, you go first, and then I've got a follow-up question.
Yeah, Ilanka, we're incredibly proud of you, and especially because you do it with a subject that one doesn't think about. You know, you think of science and so on as the natural, innovative spaces. You know, you take a language, you take Afrikaans, and you bring it alive, you make it alive. And what I really like about, what I'm hoping will happen, Lee, is that we take all of these lessons about technological innovation during the lockdown and put it up somewhere so that teachers can draw it down. Because there's going to be a teacher somewhere, that didn't think about this idea or would like to apply it in his or her own context and so on and so forth. But the fact that teachers didn't sit on their hands and say, oh my goodness, the only option I had is to get printed materials to the kids.
Yes.
Some didn't have a choice, let's be honest. But where you had a choice, you used it in a way that others could benefit from it. So hats off to you, Ilanka. Did I hear correctly you're no longer teaching?
I'm not. I've now changed or transformed again, and I am a trainer. I trained teachers, and I'm also a learning designer now.
Okay, but you're still in education.
I'm still into education. Love education.
Lovely stuff.
Can I just come in there?
Yes.
Earlier this year, I had to develop something for CTI, right? And then they said, okay, this wonderful lady, she's going to assist you with this design. And then we had a meeting and we were going on like normal, and it was lovely. And then only when I informed them about the book being published, then we realized that we actually met and we didn't know, because I knew she had a unique name, but now I'm constantly on Facebook and Instagram. All the teachers, they have handles now, right? So I thought, okay, no, Ilanka, beautiful name, so it must have been one of those, but I didn't think that we would meet on a platform like that. And then I just wanted to latch on to what she said just before you continue. In the Western Cape, or in the book, you'll see that the readiness of the different provinces, it wasn't on the same level, right? Because here in the Western Cape, as soon as the schools closed, we had lesson plans from our officials, right? So we still have it. Even now when the school closed, we got the lesson plans again. So I don't know. I don't think it happens at all levels, but I would like to say that in our province, it actually really helped, those lesson plans.
Now, Theola and Prof, I want to share something with you. I believe in the power of collaboration, and you mentioned earlier, there's something that Ilanka or Theola has that you and I may not have. And Theola, just as a fellow pioneer, tell Ilanka something interesting about the introduction clip of the forum. Of every show, the introduction clip. Who designed that thing?
I did.
So I draw on Theola's creativity and technological flair to spruce up the look and feel of the forum, right? So she's the master brain behind that. So that little intro that you saw there with that thing, that's a little something, that was Theola's working. And I mean, that is what I'm talking about, the magic of joining forces. Yes. And so, Ilanka, any final thoughts before we take leave of you?
I really think that in South Africa, teachers, and I think what you mentioned about, and Prof said about where we put up these resources and where you can access them. I'm a big fan of collaboration. I always joke that Barney, the purple dinosaur, and myself are big mates. I believe in sharing is caring. and I have a PLN that I share all my ideas with. I've got a little Google site as well where you can download all my stuff. Because I just believe that if I can make it easier for someone else and they're able to take that one step, if they copy something of mine and add their own little bit to it, that's fine, because you're taking that one step, you're getting comfortable, and so we're making progress. We're putting that pebble in and making the rings bigger. And I do think that in South Africa, that is still something lacking. Teachers seem to hold on to their stuff. It's like, oh, it's so precious, I can't let anyone else have it. But for us to change the system and the ecosystems within our schools, it is critical that we have these game changers, that we have these people that come in and say, no, let's try this. As long as it's to the benefit of the children. That's what I always say. If I can prove it's to the benefit of the children and learning is happening, then go for it.
Well, on that note, Ms. Poole, thank you very much for joining us tonight. It was an absolute pleasure having you on, and we wish you nothing but the very best as you continue to journey in education, albeit in a different portfolio.
Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.
Take care. All right, so that was Miss Poole, Ilonka Poole. All them, and I deliberately I'm avoiding the you saying a name because it's such a beautiful name. Well, I'm not verkeerd kry nie as Ilonka. You know, so that is Ilonka Poole from Gauteng, and she's not a green side any longer. Now, before I bring on the next guest from the Free State, I just want to flag one or two comments from the people and the colleagues that have joined us on the live feed. Ronel Sampson says hi from Easterrivier. Thank you for joining. Mona is joining us from Mitchell's Plain. Renal said she cannot wait for tonight's program. Well, thank you, ma'am, for the support. And then Collett says a wonderful initiative. Teachers and most school leaders have gone beyond the call of duty to hold our children, parents, and communities. They need to be celebrated. I absolutely agree, and I think this is why this book was brought about. And then Mario, a good friend of mine from Tilbach, we grew up together in the dusty streets of Tilbach. He's in the police force in George these days, and he's greeting us from the city Suid-Kaap, the Southern Cape. All right, and then Diane Morgan says, hi, good evening. Diane is the principal at Diane is kind of McQuarrie. Diane is at Windsor High School in Lansdowne. She's the principal over there. All right. And then there's a number of comments, colleagues. I'm not going to flag all of them because we are also sensitive to time. But this one maybe. And then is it Miss Ollie, Salary? Theola and Prof. Jansen gave a voice to the stories of teachers and their journey through lockdown learning. Theola, amazing job on sharing, risking, and elevating other in the process. Well, thank you for that beautiful contribution. And then there's a number of other things that I'll try and do it later. Maybe just this one's another colleague of mine. Proud to have my colleague Ashika Davids or Malam contribute to this very worthwhile book. All right. Now, Prof, I'm going to, just before we get, what is his name? Lehlo Honolo on. Something tells me that this book cover has changed. Am I correct in assuming that?
Yes, it's another learner. Apparently there was some copyright issues with the first cover, but the second one is more or less the same. And so the publisher asked us whether they could change it. And of course, you know, we just authors and editors. We don't worry too much about the technical production side of things. But I'm glad that we didn't go with a completely different design. It's still, I think, a young man, still with a mask and same colors and so on. Oh, by the way, can I just get this in, Lee? I think you must have planned it this way. Did you notice Miss Poole also fits into our marine science theme?
No. You know? and you know, it being a wet Cape Town tonight.
Yeah.
All right, now let's take the conversation to the Free State, and we are graced with the presence of Lehlo Honolo Mofokeng, who's an accounting teacher at St. Bernard High School in the Free State. Good evening, Mr. Mofokeng. How are you tonight?
Good evening, Lee. How are you? And Prof and Theola.
Well, thank you for joining us tonight. Now, Lehlo Honolo, to kickstart your segment, you highlighted the fact that as teachers, your physical proximity was compromised at the start of lockdown, and you began to feel a sense of detachment from the learners now. And then you even went as far as saying, how do you begin to speak to their hearts when they are detached from you? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I relate to teaching in a different way, and I think it's what we do as teachers. Like I asked, how do you teach them when you have detached from them? I see teaching as a social act. So by social act, I mean you cannot really teach them if they don't really relate to you. So those are some of the dynamics that we had to deal with before first getting to their heads, because you have to get to their hearts. And I found it very hard to really teach them to their heart if we really lost each other's emotional connection. And those were some of the things that we really struggled with. And I think it calls upon one to really be innovative in how they go about their pedagogy before they can even try to sort out a whole lot of things, because we are all human. We were all scared. They were also scared and anxious about what is to come. And those were the times we really did not know much about COVID-19. And there were even some of the times when you'll teach half the class because kids or learners will really scare or run for their lives, not knowing really, is it safe for me to return to school? And teachers as well. But we just had to soldier on. And fortunate enough, we managed to weather the storm, although we are still in the storm, but we are surviving.
Yeah. Now, Nola, let me tell you something. When I read your contribution, something told me that you've got either some experience in writing because you are a very good storyteller. Let me tell you that at least that's my impression anyway. Have you had any writing experience prior to being part of this project?
For me, I'm quite blessed to be in the midst of Prof. Jansen, because he's one of the people who truly not only inspire me, but have influenced my writing. I also have a master's from Wits University, which is where I got to train or flex my writing muscles. And we also happened to write or co-write a book with Sheila Foster on your first of varsity. So I have a little bit of writing background.
Well, that shows very clearly, Little Nola. Now, Little Nola, your story featured under the theme poverty, relating, I suppose, to the context where you teach. Now, St. Bernard High School is in your King Street, is at Bochabella, in Bloemfontein. Now, what before lockdown? What was life like in the everyday life of a teacher at your school?
I'll say it really has not changed much, because what was is still the case. We still relied more on traditional teaching, chalk and talk, not really blending learning. And I thought perhaps now that we know what is the future of schooling, things will really change, but things have not really changed. The thinking is still the same, where we think traditional schooling is still the way to go, whereas it's not really the way to go. So it's really hard to compare the past with the present, because the past is still pretty much in the present.
Sure, the past is still very much in the present. That's profound. I mean, I'm sensing that with every being now. And then you mentioned, and you were quoted as saying in the book that you felt hopeless and hollow at the realization that the children that you teach come from contexts where having food on the table ranked higher than buying data.
Sure, yeah. And Miss Poole, if I pronounce her name right, touched on the fortune of being able to afford data. She was privileged enough to teach at a school where most of her learners or all of her learners could afford data. But that's not really the case in most of our schools, 85% of them. And do we really fault parents for choosing to buy bread over data, and as a result compromising the access to schooling? I don't really blame them, or not at all, because we really have to put food on the table. Otherwise, we are not going to even focus on our studies. And I think this is the time to really rethink schooling as we know it. And this will not really be the school's only burden. It's a micro level, it's a micro issue this one where government has to really come on board to introduce blended learning. And that will not only help the cause if we play the blame game. Also the schools. What is it that the principals are doing to ensure that they acclimatize to the new way of learning and teaching? We really need to think hard and long about the future of our schooling when it also reels from the past imbalances. And I think the private sector also has to come on board to steer the change. I'm encouraged by the new online school by University of Cape Town, and I hope we have more such schools in the country where government really has to get rid of textbooks, your hardcovers, and introduce online or ebooks. Introduce Google Classrooms. Teach teachers how to use these platforms. Teach parents how to use these platforms. We can even pilot it, if you like, so that at least in the future, 50 years from now, the kids of the future don't suffer what the kids of today have suffered.
Yeah, Prof, you wanna just latch on to anything that Lehlo Nola has mentioned?
Yeah, look, Lehlo Nola and I go way back. He was a star student. He was a star student at the University of the Free State. He's a young man of enormous dignity and obviously intelligence and commitment. And I was so excited, Lehlo Nola, when I saw your story in the book and from the Free State. We got a lot from Cape Town and Gauteng, the usual suspects, KZN, but not a lot from the Free State. And I just want to tell you that I admire you, that I am encouraged by the way you model good teaching in difficult circumstances, and that you continue to study. And when you mention people like Sheila Foster and others who all came in to help us with writing workshops for undergraduate students, I had a very warm feeling. So kudos to you, man. And may you continue to teach and to lead through your teaching as you inspire not only people in the Free State, but throughout the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Lehlo Nola, thank you very much for joining us tonight. That's all we have time for your little insight, but it was a blessing to have you on, and we are hoping to see some more of your work being featured in future, publications.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Theola.
All right. Now, Theola, just quickly, in your context, Yellowwood Primary School, he spoke on the issue of affordability, the data versus buying bread. That's a real issue. What's the learner like at the school that you teach?
Well, at our school, it's basically the same, perhaps a bit improved from his circumstances. But, for example, I also created a website for my learners, actually for my grade, and then later on for the whole school, so that they can just get the work, right? But at that time, it was not zero rated yet, the WCED's website, right? But that time, the learners couldn't access it. So yes, we had these lovely worksheets, and we couldn't give it to the learners because of that. And also, I know some of our colleagues, they struggled because, yes, there's perhaps a handheld device, but now if the mother goes to work, then the device isn't at home anymore. Or if they perhaps work night shift, it's not there anymore. So yes, it was difficult because the school is equipped with ICT and we had the resources, but we couldn't connect it to the learners at home. So currently we are making use of the WhatsApp groups, and then we also encourage the WCED zero rated website now in this time.
Now, lesson one of the book says, for example, the future is hybrid, and it said, and I love the following. It says, the pandemic disrupted institutional common sense. Wow, that's beautifully stated. Now, would you agree with that, Theola?
Excuse me?
Would you agree with the fact that the pandemic disrupted the institutional common sense, life as we knew it before COVID?
Oh yes, everything changed, right? Everything that we did pre-COVID, it was not the same anymore. Everything changed, and even the way we taught and the way we think we were supposed to do things, everything changed, right? So if I just think of the ICT perhaps in the classroom, we mentioned it earlier that we must do away with the textbooks Okay, so if you look at my grade 5 learners, their bags are so heavy because they have like 12 hard covers in their bags, right? But now even today, still we must still give the learners textbooks that must be added to that, and then we have the policy on every
Yeah.
learner must have a textbook, and then the books don't come back, and then the school is in trouble because of that as well. So we should really take this opportunity to go the route of the hybrid teaching, and then get the technology, get the ebooks and so forth, right? So yeah, I do definitely agree with you.
Prof, one of the lessons, and I think lesson 6 is the post pandemic future requires different kinds of teachers. And I want to connect this with the following comment here that says, hard lockdown was a massive learning experience and helped me entrench the belief that our system must shift from marks to mastery if we were to uplift future generations. Do you just want to respond to that?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I mean, so much of what we do is about coverage, as Theola was saying earlier, or one of the teachers. You just need to cover the curriculum, but there's a lovely dual meaning there. To cover means to conceal, and you got to move from simply getting the curriculum done, the CAPS curriculum done, to sort of saying, what skills and competencies have you actually learnt? And can you demonstrate that for purposes of assessment? So I love that comment.
And then there's another one, Prof. Natasha is asking, Prof, what are your thoughts on schools where children simply do not have access to devices and internet at home, and yet interactive worksheets are being developed for online platforms by the curriculum advisors?
Yeah, look, one of the big things that has to happen, and you'll see it in that last section that we wrote in the book, is this wake-up call is one for government, that you have to enable schools and households to enable children to learn through a combination of face-to-face and online learning, and that's possible by creating in communities, in townships, in schools, the infrastructure that enables that to happen. So if we had a government that really cared, and a government that committed to this and understood what's just happened, they would make massive investments so that it no longer is a surprise 5 years from now that every child has data and devices, and so on. If that doesn't happen, here's the really bad news. The rich get richer. In other words, the schools that already have all of those access, middle class homes, etc., they will continue to surge ahead. And the working class and poor kids and families will continue to lag behind. We have an inequality problem before COVID. It will be 10 times worse if we don't address the infrastructural gap that would enable all children to access, as I said, learning from a distance.
Sure. So the authorities need to listen to the lessons that are contained in the book. Now, David Miller, I want to bring him on, really just flag a comment. And I think David he contributed in one or other way to this book. And he said, I salute the schools that had drive-by and pick-up packs, teachers and principals standing in their parking areas, handing out materials at great risk to themselves while the virus raged, trying their best. And David is the CEO of Naptosa Western Cape, my former boss, as I would say. Welcome, David Miller, for joining. And I think you mentioned something about Theola's absolute, something about voicing your opinion, and I just can't find it now. But guys, as we draw, here it is. This is one of the, David says, the authenticity of this evening show sends such a strong message to the country about the quality of its teachers. And it makes me warmer than a hot cup of hot chocolate on a cold, wet Cape winter's night. Wow. So thank you, David, once again, for joining us and supporting the forum in the manner that you have. Now, Prof. Theola, we need to land the plane, and I'm going to ask that each one of you give us some concluding remarks as for those of us who are still listening and tuning in. Theola, you go first, and I'll ask Prof then to take it away.
Okay. Thank you, Lee. I just wanted to say, like, this period now, it was extremely difficult, and I mean on all levels, right? But everybody took it in a different way, right? So in this time, especially in the book, it's an emotional response to what we went through last year, and we can learn a lot through it. And I must say that I want to commend our educators that wrote in, and I know we have many other teachers also, perhaps they didn't write in for the book, but they did commendable work in the lockdown period. And I know we all have our different strengths, we all voice our voices differently. Some would be an activist on Facebook like you, perhaps. Some would do dancing. Some would make videos. Like I can't make videos where my face is on. But we all have our strengths, and this book is just a component or one strength of the teachers of South Africa. So I just want to say thank you to you again, and Prof, and everybody who sent their contribution. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Yeah, what I hope, Lee and Theola, is that the one lesson we take from this experience that teachers articulated is the notion of partnerships, the notion of collaboration. Never before in our history have teachers worked across grades, within grades, especially when only certain grades come back to school, foundation phase teachers helping out in grade 7 or something like that, and teachers learning from each other's Facebook, YouTube videos and whatever. And I'm happy to say, as one who's quite critical of government departments, that many of the advisors, became very involved, especially in the Western Cape, in the schools to try and help out and not just be the postman of the department. That is good for us. And I'm hoping that we will continue to build on these collaborative efforts so that we don't just do it when there's a disruption. We do this as part of the new normal. And then, of course, teachers benefit, but also the children benefit from that working together, which you've seen on such a wonderful scale. I'm hoping this book goes out to as many people in the general public as well, because I think it will breed a new respect for our profession, the profession of teaching, because of what our teachers were able to accomplish under very, very difficult conditions. And then to you, Lee, thank you so much for the platform that you always provide for teachers. And Theola, you are an amazing writer, editor, and partner in this book. And I wish that the next book is your own. As I always tell my fellow authors, the next book is your own, or sit there now.
Definitely, Prof.
Now, thank you very much for the sentiments expressed, colleagues. Now, just where do we find a copy of this book for those of us who are so much wanting to get our hands on a copy, and what are the cost implications?
Theola.
Okay, so the book is currently on Amazon, Google Books, and the publisher itself, Sun Africa, right? You can email them at orders@africansunmedia.co.za, and the price that I saw was 230 Rand. So for the hard copies, it's currently with the publishers. You can order only through them. But as for the other platforms, it will be the ebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, colleagues. And before I go, I need to just highlight one or two. Oh, here we go. Oh, no, not Sally, not that one. Okay, David says, thank you, Lee, one of the best. And the WCTF continues to inspire and give education activism a professional voice. Thank you very, very much, David Miller, for that. And then Erin, I think Erin, this name also sounds very familiar. Oh, she was the poetess, isn't it so?
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah. Thank you to you, Theola and Prof, for the honor and privilege of having our voice. I think that was amazing. I think that was the introduction somewhere.
Yeah.
And then somebody else. Okay, I'm like, oh, no, not Karen. There was Miss Wendy Horn.
That's
She's
a lecturer, by the way.
Who was that?
Yeah.
Oh, Karen. Okay, a heartfelt engagement. Through this type of engagement and collaboration, we can only strengthen our efforts. Congratulations on this publication and initiative. And then Ms. Wendy Horn, she's the director of Metro North Education District. Yeah, our advisors work day and night. Yes, I agree, ma'am. Thank you very much for joining and supporting the platform. Colleagues, that is all we have time for tonight. It was an absolute treat having Prof on once again. This is the third time. Prof, before I let you go, I must ask you, you made a comment the last time, and I thought, what did this man mean by that? You said, you probably a boykie from Kensington. I'm like, what beteken dat nou? What did that mean?
You see, if you're from retreat like me, you're disadvantaged. If you're from Kensington, you're severely disadvantaged.
Okay. Yeah, and yeah, I'm thinking it must be a compliment or something. Anyways, colleagues, thank you very, very much. And once again, Prof. and Theola, thanks for showcasing our teacher leaders. I think this is history in the making. We are really honored to have our colleagues showcasing in the manner that they have, and they are the at the coal face of education. They really like your book said here at the back. It says most of these stories are stories of hope, resilience, and enormous courage in the face of a deadly virus. Your faith in teachers and teaching will be restored after reading this book. And I mean, I cannot agree more with that. Now, my information tells me, or is it an assumption that there is a sequel to the teaching in and beyond pandemic times? Prof?
Yeah. So we're busy scheming a book on leading in pandemic times. This is the role of principals and their teams in leadership. And then, as I mentioned, I've got a postdoc doing one on parenting, because, we don't really know how parents tried to help with learning during the lockdown and what that could mean for working with parents in the future, as supporting teachers in the classroom. So when all of this is done, we should have 4 books out, one on learners, teaching, leading, and parenting.
Wow. Cannot wait. Ms. Karen Dudley, you said we salute all teachers, school leaders, subject advisors, and the provincial subject planners. Great collaboration. Now, Karen is the director of the GT in the Western Cape. She's the director of curriculum, right? So thank you very much for joining, Ms. Dudley. We appreciate your support. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, I'm saying good night for the 3rd time now. So I'm going to play us. Yes, ma'am.
Before you go, I tell you every week you must say like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Do that.
Okay, well, there you have it. Like, comment, share,
And
and subscribe to
to
our
our
YouTube
YouTube
channel.
channel.
Well, okay, that's why we have you in the corner to deal with technology and with all of that. Thank you very much, colleagues. Once again, stay safe, God bless, and just thank you for sharing your hearts tonight. I'm going to play us out with a video clip of that celebrates our teacher. It is a short one, but it just goes to our teachers that are doing the hard work that they are doing, and strength and courage for 3 that lies ahead. It's going to be a busy one, a difficult one, but together we can conquer it. Stay safe, thank you, and good night.